Hey guys, Saga here, and today's video is going to be about Reinhardt and shield tricks that you can use to make your Reinhardt play better. Things like how to advance on an opponent who's shooting at you, how to retreat more quickly while taking less damage, and how to counter a Reinhardt flashbang over shield. We're also going to cover some basic play tips, some of the more general things. I might talk on positioning a little bit, but there is an entire other guide for that. I'll leave a link to that in the description. But basically I want my focus for this video to be shield, like shield tricks, things you can do with your shield, and how you can use your Reinhardt shield just a little bit better. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so this first technique is something that you can do if you're fighting against a Pharah, or a Hanzo, or a Junkrat, and the reason that this is a doable thing is because these heroes attack in rhythms. Their shots go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not like a constant stream of bullets, and because of that you can jump with proper shield timing and then block their incoming attacks and advance on them more quickly, because what you're doing is you're getting airtime, you're getting his full walk speed during your jump, and then you're blocking the oncoming attack. This is great for closing distance. This is great in any dueling situation where you're not worried about other incoming damage. Remember again, not to do this if you're protecting your whole team and there's large amounts of enemy fire coming at you. Then you are just showing off at the wrong time, I guess? Like, just don't do that. All right, so in this next clip, we're gonna show that same technique, but with a Hanzo. So you'll notice that I'm blocking the shots, I'm closing the distance, and then once I get in, I do enough damage so that he knows that the fight has been lost. And then I emote. It's important to emote here. It's a mind games, you're trying to bait out the alt. Look, alt, boom. All right, right here, you want to dash, finish him off. Excellent. Mind games. All right, I'm sure most of you know by now that McCree can throw a flashbang over Reinhardt shield, stunning him. So if you see McCree making movements that look like he's going for a flashbang, and these are things like rolling forward toward you with your shield up, he's almost certainly going to try to flashbang over the shield. A McCree would have absolutely zero other reason to roll closer to you. There's nothing else you could possibly want to do. At that point, you want to angle your shield up. Now, if at any point you got into a crazy mind game contest with a McCree, you basically have a 50-50, like in a fighting game. You can either block high or you can block low, and the same is true with this shield. If you block a high flashbang, you're susceptible to a low one, and etc. So it's a mind game thing. 99% of the flashbangs you will block will be up, even at a high level, because no one's gonna throw down, because unless you're expecting them to jerk up with the shield, no one's gonna have their shield in a position where you're able to flashbang under. At least the majority of the time, unless they're like blocking a Pharah ult or Pharah fire. Pharah fire is surprisingly difficult to say. The most important thing to take away from that speech was that if you see a McCree doing something a McCree shouldn't be, like advancing, trying to get closer to a Reinhardt, you have to anticipate that they're going to flashbang and angle your shield up in order to block. Okay, so as far as that like shield flickering technique I mentioned before, works great in duels versus Pharah and Hanzo, and even Junkrat. It's also a technique for retreating from a point. So if you're at a choke point and you're taking a lot of fire, the key would be to identify times where less fire is coming at your shield, when people have taken cover, when people have stopped firing at you, or you can count their bullets, and when they start to reload, then you can start to fall back. And you can fall back more quickly if you have hit points to spare. So if you're getting healed from behind, this is definitely a better move. Look, the thing with Reinhardt shield is definitely don't want to drop the shield if you're taking a lot of fire. So always keep that in mind. If a lot of bullets are coming at you, if there are teammates whose lives are precious behind you, you don't want to drop your shield. But there will come times where your teammates take cover, and because you were in a third-person view, you were able to be aware of this while still blocking. Use these times to retreat, especially if your position is getting pushed back and for whatever reason you can't maintain it, whether your shield's going down or whether you've lost too many people to hold the current position. Start falling back. And by doing this same shield flicker technique while falling back, you're able to fall back more quickly. Now remember, this is only going to work if you have health remaining. And it's going to be even better if you're at your highest health total, not just because you'll have more hit points to burn through, but because at the top of your health you have armor. And that armor will help mitigate incoming damage and let your retreat be a lot more smooth. This is especially good if you got like a Mercy on you or an Ana who's constantly healing you up. Then this type of retreat makes more sense, especially if you're the only one taking fire. There are times to use this, there are times not to use this. Use your best discretion. Just a few more pointers to mention. I didn't mention this last time, but Reinhardt's Flame Strike is really important because Reinhardt's Fire Strike is really important because it's his best way for building his ult. So if you are Fire Striking, you want to line them up. Any situation where you can Fire Strike and hit 2, 3, 4 people, you want to do it not just for the damage, you know, even if you have no expectation of killing anybody, this is the best way you're going to build Earth Shatter. Another thing worth mentioning is you want to look for lanes with Reinhardt. So if you're good at charging, you can charge somebody from anywhere, and you could set up, you know, great across map charges and maybe even some great predictive charges, like I think this guy's about to run around this corner. But one of the best ways to guarantee charges is to look for lanes. So like a great example is the Temple of Anubis. Temple of Anubis has so many lanes where you can either go to the right or you can go to the left. And in some circumstances, there are lanes where you can only go one direction. So predicting how your enemy's going to fall back is so obvious. So like worst case scenario, you have a 50-50. You get to choose to angle his charge to the left or to the right. And if you are wrong, you've still closed distance. And if you're right, you've insta-killed somebody. But then there's going to be lanes that the way that they can retreat in them is only one direction. So the way that they're going to turn is almost guaranteed. Like unless they're like really thinking, oh, he's going to anticipate I'm going to the left. Like it's almost an 100% charge kill. And that's situations you want to look out for, where where an enemy wants to come down, but once they are in there, they have no easy way to escape. Set up the charge, get a free kill. So my hope with this and the positional video is to give you the tools you need to play Reinhardt well. Positioning is obviously just as important as any of these little tips, but these tips don't really fit into the category of positioning, as they're more like things you would do when you're dueling people, or ways to fall back. It's more of like little things that you can do to help, you know, really get that min-max. You know, these would definitely be considered minimum tips, but these are tips that will help you get the most out of Reinhardt, and this can often mean the difference between surviving and dying, and just being a more effective Reinhardt altogether. Alright guys, if you like my content, please subscribe. I do vlogs and Hearthstone stuff and all kinds of other things, so stay tuned.